Good evening. We have the Dune Hollow Riders.
Hey, welcome.
Welcome to the Writer's Voice Café for March 11th, 2015. I know Linda from the Vagina Monologues. And there's some new faces here, I think. Is anyone here for the first time? Yes. Woohoo! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wonderful. There's a mailing list. Please put your name, your email down, because even if you don't want to come every single time, we have some really exciting things. The Writer's Voice Cafe is branching out. We're really having, we're getting calls from first of all, we're in our 8th season. This is 8 years. 8 years. So I know, 8 years. We started at the UU Meeting House for a summer. We went to Nappies for 7 years, and then we came here last June. And this is our home now. Thank you, Matt and Clark, and the Provincetown Public Library. We really. So I just want to mention that we are branching out. We have the cafe now. We are year-round. Always the second Wednesday of every month here, 6 to 8. So the cafes are here every single month, summer, winter, spring, and fall. So that's one area. Now we also are presenting workshops, writing workshops. We've presented a poetry workshop, a memoir workshop. In the future we're going to present, we're going to have someone lead, well, it's Candace Perry. We're negotiating with her, we're sort of talking with her about when. A playwriting workshop, screenwriting workshop.
Wonderful.
And the beat goes on, so we'll have more and more. So then the third thing that we're planning and we're really excited about, we had such a great meeting we have a core group. We are 4 now. Michael Ryle he's very busy with music, so he is not going to be a part of it. But we've added 2 people. Jody Donson, woohoo, and Laura Shabbat. So we have 6 now, and this is a collaborative team, and we are planning now the first annual Provincetown Writers Festival in 2016.
Oh, wow.
I know.
It's about time, right?
Yes. Well, you know,
Provincetown.
yes, it is. And we're going to start with one day, a Saturday, possibly the beginning of May. So we have an advisor. We're working on an advisory team, and we're really planning. So we're very excited about that. We were really thrilled. So I'm Diane Hamilton. I'm your host for tonight, and with the help, couldn't do this alone, with the help of Rebecca Levin, who is our treasurer, and she just takes in the money and expenses it and has all kinds of creative ideas. And Hildy Olson is, well, you know, I founded it in 2007. Hildy was right there with me. So thank you very much, Hildy, for all those years of saying, you can do it, we can do it, because we've done it together. Thanks, Hildy. And Matt Clark, who is the interim director here at the library. He's also our filmmaker, and he's also director of marketing and program development. And we just are having so much fun here. We really have a wonderful home here. So we want to thank the Friends of the Provincetown Public Library and the Board of Trustees for being there and supporting us. And Jody, thank you so much for helping to set up. You really did help us a lot. And she made this.
Oh, wow.
This is not a podium, this is a lectern. Okay. Okay. We all bring our skills and talents to this. This is very cozy tonight, thank you. I feel very cozy tonight. Okay, and we appreciate everyone who's come to read in the open mic and to listen. Frankly, tonight I'm going to major in audience, and it's really lots of fun to do that. So I'm sure other people will major in audience too. Okay. Alrighty. We want to thank Melissa, Amy, and Heather at PTV, and you can watch this. They have a schedule. I went on provincetowntv.org, and they do have a schedule when they show it, when they show the cafe here. So you can go on the schedule, and you can look for the daily schedule and see if it's being shown. So that's one way of seeing it. Hopefully it'll be in their archives and we can watch it any time. But okay, that's channel 99 if you want to watch it, or you can watch it on their provincetowntv.org. Okay. Well, cell phones off or on vibrate. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, our featured writer. Wow. There's a lot of energy behind me. I feel it. It's wonderful. The Dune Hollow Writers. Well, they were members. Yeah. They were. I'm going to let them say most of it, but they were members of the Provincetown Public Press freshman class, very beginning. And they are authors of the iBook anthology Shadow and Light. And Shadow and Light is an elegantly evocative collection of short stories and poems presented by 7 unique feminine voices. These thought-provoking poems and character-driven stories are funny, poignant, and true. This writing is from and for the heart and soul. I just wanted you, this is their card, and you can get their card and Joan W. Barnes, her business card, which gives the address, okay, right there on the table. So they're located in the heart of downtown Orleans, and they gather to find inspiration, community, and their own, as I said, unique voices. The philosophy is simple. Every person is a writer, and every writer deserves a safe environment in which to experiment, learn, and develop craft. So, without further ado, I will turn it over to the Dune Hollow Writers. Thank you.
Thank you. Greetings. My name is Joan Barnes, and I'm the facilitator of Dune Hollow Writers, located in Orleans. As you heard, our ebook Shadow and Light was published by Provincetown Public Press in 2013. It's an anthology of poetry and prose by 7 of our members. We've got postcards over there that explain how to get your very own copy. And if you order it through iTunes, you'll get it in color with photographs by Ginia, one of our writers here tonight. Briefly, I started Dune Hollow Writers in 2009 as a way of bringing the Amherst writers and artists method to the Cape. Started by Pat Schneider, it uses prompts as a way to jumpstart pieces of writing. And I have a board over there that gives you an idea of some of the prompts that we might use. We meet weekly, and there are 2 separate writing sessions per workshop with a break in between. After each session, we share our writing with the group. Everything is treated as fiction, and comments are only about what stays with us and what jumps out as special. This is not a critique group. Writers are of all genres and all levels of experience. Some of the writings just stay as they are in the journal. Some are used later to add to a work in progress. Some are typed up afterwards and given out. 3 of our members are working on novels that have emerged from these sessions. One member, Irene, has already published a novel. Henry and Eva, a Cape Cod love story that began in group. Another member, Jill, has begun extracting snippets of her writing and is turning them into note cards and matted prints. There are some available, or there will be on the table for purchase afterwards. There are also members who just write for their own enjoyment and don't care if their writing goes any further than the cozy room that we write in. Tonight we're bringing you a new selection of prose and poetry, all begun at Dune Hollow. I hope you enjoy. Susan?
Hello, I'm Susan Gracer. Writing new. I want to write in a new way, not the old way where I chase after words, stalking like an anxious lover, my brain buzzing noisy like a lumberjack before the fall, muscles gnarled with the strain of too much trying. I want the words to come to me soft and easy, when I least expect them, a gift from the quiet drift of sleep, or seeping through the cracks in my existence, appearing out of the blue like clouds in a sun-filled sky. New words, flowing from a silent stream, a place not only mine, a sacred space where writers meet unknowingly. These words will find me like a river finds the sea, like raindrops find the seeds in spring, like mussels find repose in letting go. I will sit in the stillness of receiving, like the ocean, like the seed. I will sit in the sacred space of writing, and the words will come. This one is written from 3 prompts, which was inadequate plumbing, identity, and black frosting. And after I read this, one of the other members will read her interpretation or her response. Black frosting, you say? Do you mean on a cake? Like frosting made in a kitchen with inadequate plumbing? Or do you mean on someone's hair, like when they're of an age and want to appear younger? They may have inadequate plumbing as well. Or do you mean what the snow will look like in another 50 years, when we'll all be living with inadequate plumbing due to the Earth's inability to absorb any more pollutants? I'm going to assume you mean black frosting on a cake, because I'm hungry. And that it's a jet black licorice frosting, and that the cake is a stark white cake, and that it's frosted in many layers, several layers of thick frosting, so that when you slice the cake, it looks like a zebra. I'm going to assume it's being served at a safari, a zebra safari, and that it's made this way to blend in with the environment, like a Frank Lloyd Wright cake. And that after a time on this lengthy safari, because you will eat so many of these cakes, you would begin to understand zebras more fully. You begin to think like a zebra in black and white, and walk like a zebra. And this will make you realize, as you relieve yourself on the inadequate plumbing of the safari plains, that you now have the identity of a zebra, an identity you never knew you had. Now too, and this is really just the icing on the cake, you will also have the full understanding of what it means to be your cake and eat it too.
So again, I'm going to read a piece that comes off that same prompt, just so you kind of see what happens. Kim, my name is Kim. So again, the prompt is inadequate plumbing, permanent press, identity, and black frosting. At a loss completely. Meant to print out the revision of the piece I'm working on to see if it might help, if this space of connected writers writing might lift the piece out of the difficult to see into clarity, might put the glasses on it. Blah, 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 analogies, words, Piper sighs, birds twitter, keys clack, and still nothing comes. Inadequate, permanent, identity, black, plumbing, press, frosting. Permanent press identity, a passport that could live beyond the washing machine. Inadequate black frosting, imagine the mess. Press black frosting, like press on nails. Press on black frosting, yes, like press on nails. Inadequate identity. Inadequate identity, a medical condition wherein a person can't quite remember who they are. For example, they know they are female, they know they are American, but they can't remember their age or what being that age implies. They are prone to inappropriate acting out. inappropriate for their chronological age. They might, for example, have a meltdown or throw a tantrum at the supermarket when they learn that the advertised special on almond milk Greek-style yogurt, normally $1.25 a piece, has sold out and the store will not be offering rain checks. Inadequate Identity, a great title. In red, white, and blue block lettering against the black background of a 6x4 paperback novel, wherein an American, French, and Russian military, weapons, and antiquity specialists find themselves thrown together at the World's Fair without proper identification or authority, racing against the clock and unknown assailants to break the code of a bomb that would explode, drown, bury, set on fire, in other words, kill everyone in attendance. And, of course, all kinds of celebrities, heads of state, and royalty would be attending some highly important, posh, historically significant gathering at the fair. Edge of your seat, page turning, take plenty of water and snacks with you to the beach when you read this reading. The movie version of said best-selling novel would invert the title using a semicolon, identity, semicolon, inadequate. The well-known director, an Iranian-French Chickasaw American, his parents had divorced when he was young and he took on his stepfather's heritage as well as that of his own parents, insisted on no more than 4 words in any of his titles and always an article of punctuation, the semicolon being his preferred. It has a dictionary of meanings, he'd said often about the semicolon. So that's an example of the same prompt. And this is an excerpt from a longer piece I'm working on. Chickie and Ollie lay on their backs, shoulder to shoulder, breathing. It was all Chickie heard when he came to. Breath in, breath out. Then he felt Ollie's shoulder, and he couldn't tell if he was hearing his own or Ollie's breath. But they were both alive, so it didn't really matter. He closed his eyes and exhaled relief and thank yous to God and the universe and any other higher power he'd ever had a conversation with. Rolling to his left side and looking toward his watch, his left hip exploded, jagged runs of sensation that pounded and scraped through his groin, running out of steam above his knee and then rebounded back up into his belly. He flushed hot and cold and then nauseous. He could hold onto his rifle, but he couldn't keep from vomiting. Ollie grabbed Chickie's vest from behind and rolled him to his right as he heaved, nothing much coming out. 5 feet away, Chickie saw more vomit covered by sand and scuff marks. No wonder Ollie had moved so quickly. He'd done it before. It's okay, Chick. The hell it is. Yeah, okay, it sucks. It really sucks completely, so puking is not a big deal. Is that clearer? Yeah, it is. They each smiled. It was okay in that moment. I'm hit? Yeah. Shrapnel, not bullets. Piece of Cooper and Weston's Humvee, I think. It's history. Neither said Cooper and Weston were likely history as well. The attack had been sudden, that much Chickie remembered. You? I'm good. You lucky bastard. Yeah, luck of the Irish, luck of the Swedish, fuck the Irish, man. Chickie lay back and looked up at the sky, stars as far as he could see. The nausea was rolling at him again. He braced himself, closed his eyes, let the wave come at him, fought against the pull to let go, back into unconsciousness. Ollie watched him fight, put a hand on his shoulder to let him know he was there, to keep him from sliding away as well. The hours alone had been bad. This is the last time I'll reappear. This was taken from prompts, which also Joan will read hers after I read this. And it's from 4 poetry titles, the name of 4 poems. And the poems were The Jar with a Dry Rim by Rumi, Poem Without You in It by Diane Averill, The Blue Bowl by Jane Kenyon, and Where No One Stays a Statue, Marc Nepo. And it's called a 4-poet collage. No one stays a statue when snow no longer falls and life sprouts forth beneath the thaw and from above. Wild laughter and naked arms break through their frozen stance, remember how to dance. In fields of daffodils,
and tulips in their bowls of blue blooms a sense of life anew. Drink wine from Rumi's jar, welcome spring, ice melted from its rim. Break free of winter poems without me in them. I am the bud of spring.
Hi again. So this is what I did with the same prompt. It's called About You. I wanted to write about you, about how your eyes get deep and clear after we've loved each other's secrets out, about how your hands stroke the runnels of my heart into changing course midstream. I wanted to write about you, how your voice stutters my belly into hollow fullness, the eager lick of my flame to your match. I wanted to write about you, about how before you I was a nomad, hot sand burning the soles of my feet. How after you I was the cool drop of water on the rim of the glass. But look, after all the words I've laid down, I've written instead about me. This one's called Lessons. We were keeping the plants alive by snugging them up against the east window. Its narrow sill lent them a precariousness more than just the eternally cold apartment. But at least there was no cat around to swipe at them or nibble their anemic leaves. To me, they represented all the responsibility I could handle, and when the one on the end, Frank, yellowed and dropped his curled, dry leaves into the dirt beneath and the scuffed wood of the floor below that, I cried and made Jimmy hold me and stroke my hair the way he did when I was doubled over with period cramps or was dropped tired from a double shift at the diner. I named them all those plants. Rupert and Claudia were the first in line, side by side, all fluffed and leggy. I wanted them to entwine their stems, kiss their leaves together, make baby shoots to carry on after they wilted away. At night, in the dark, as Jimmy dragged his arm across my ribs to spoon me in, I could imagine them there with the moon shining down, reaching out for each other, spooning too. Next to them was Albert, a broad, shiny green gent. He seemed to always be thrusting himself aggressively upwards toward Fern, who hung directly above him and had her fingers in everybody's pie. She was the gossip of the bunch, had to know all the business and then some. Genevieve and Emily were next, flowery little things, always thirsty and demanding. They needed my delicate patience. When Jimmy tried to water them, they pouted and hung their heads. The last two were Amelia and Frank. They hadn't really liked each other from the start. Maybe I thought that was why Frank had finally checked out. Amelia was tall and snooty. Her flowered head was a whole cluster above Frank's tallest leaves. I wondered if his parents had been short too. I think I cried so hard for him because his brief life had been nothing but struggle. From the day I found him sitting in his little pot by the dumpster, abandoned, I knew he had big obstacles to overcome. At least someone had cared enough to leave him contained, although he was dry and had small white bugs on the undersides of all his leaves. When I brought him home, he had to be quarantined for a while. I didn't want the rest of the gang to be exposed. I put him on the nightstand by my side of the bed and kept cleaning him off with a Q-tip dipped in alcohol until every last bug was gone. Maybe Amelia had been too used to being the last in line and felt crowded once Frank moved in. I suspect she did something to sabotage his comeback. At first, he rallied and seemed happy to be part of them all, but then there he was that morning, just gone. If I didn't know better, I'd swear Amelia had been smiling. Even Jimmy noticed how she spread her leaves right out into Frank's space with barely a blink. I know you're not supposed to have favorites, that you're supposed to love them all equally. But Frank was my rescue. He was the neediest, and I had a special place in my heart for him. I guess the next step is to get an animal. They say first plants, then animals, then babies. The responsibility chain. Jimmy wants to skip the animal step and go right into making babies. He never had dogs or cats as a kid and says he wouldn't want to start now. I want to do it right. No mistakes. Like Frank. He wasn't a mistake. He lived a good life with us and we loved him. I already know I'm a good mother because of him. Sometimes no matter what you do, they die. Plants, I mean. It's a good lesson. Something to keep in mind. Is also a prompt that the person following me, somebody took the list.
Oh, me.
Anyway, Margaret will also read from a similar poem. It's called City Day. Sounds abound, diesel city, gritty sidewalks rimmed with gray and pockmarked snow. I know the noise of taxi cabs, the stabs of horns, the way the aroma of food carts adorns the very air. There, amid the moving feet, the street that runs with slushy melt, I felt vibration, subway rumble so distinct, I almost stumble backward, even as I'm carried forward. Such momentum, I don't even need to think, just move. The groove of vibe of street musicians, sidewalk kitchen, kids in mittens holding tight to mothers, nannies, or each other. Brother, can you spare $1? Not a whisper, but a holler. Hopefully someone will hear. And yes, I'm near enough to drop some change. It clinks into the metal cup. I catch him looking up at me and tentatively smile. And if the city went to sleep, there'd still be snoring, never boring silence, never even meditative pause. There's laws and ordinances, of course, against excess and loud disturbance, hence the dull and quiet roar of motorbikes and screeching brakes. Sometimes it makes me long for country living, sounds of peepers settled on the edge of ponds, the leafy fronds of red leaf ferns and silent swoop of owl wing, the woods that sing by rubbing branches. I could be settled, more content, without the drilling of cement.
So I'm Margaret.
I'm Margaret.
Out beyond the narrow window, so much life is happening down there. But here, far away from so much messiness, the hungering and the harshness are like a dream. Maybe the misty, low-lying cloud softens the lines of concrete and steel, lends a bit of magic to a whisper of another world, and blurs the boundaries. Viewed through a moisture-laden lens, even the brightest lights sing softer songs. Someone is walking briskly home, someone I cannot see. Lovers embrace under an awning, protected from raindrops I cannot see. I know a cabbie careens around corners, and sidewalk vendors huddle under umbrellas, hoping to be noticed. These things I cannot see. The clamor, the hustle, the unexpressed passion, and the expressed are distant. From up here, where I stand away from the chaos, it looks easy, but not inviting. I know it's deceptive, that it is the distance that creates any allure. My exhale fogs the window pane as I turn back into the room for a re-entry of sorts. This is a response to a random pulled out article from the newspaper, and it wasn't even the whole article. God put the oil there, he said. He put it there for us to take dominion over. God did that? God demands that we steal the riches out from under the feet of a tribe not ours, pagans and native cultures not sufficiently worthy of the earth's gifts. That man's God, that rich, white man's God is a stranger to me. That God shrivels a soul and freezes the red blood in my veins and turns it to steel. I am not steel, only tissue and tears, sweat and spirit and awe. The snow is so bright outside, its sparkle makes my eyes tear. Its sparkle makes my eyes tear to take it in, so clean and pure, like a promise. And when the crimson cardinal lands, his brightness bold, and he scratches out a thimbleful of seed, well, I catch my breath, it's just that perfect. Then God, who sings her song in that very place so that it's lifted up when the air is frigid and the wind rattles the door whose hinge is loose, that God, she says, we are born to feel each other's trembling on the brink of extinction and to look in one another's eyes in humility and to wonder at the amazing chance we have been offered. That God does not ask us to steal. She does not ask us to steal. After Newtown, my beating heart, no bigger than a fist, gathers into its plump pink veins my wounds, which are mild by comparison to yours. What do I have to complain about? Every day my children return home whole, and again rises a melancholy moon that fades when the sun returns, and tiny caskets release their perfect contents. This is the one Joan thinks is funny.
Well, in some respects.
A family dinner party. The table is set. Notice how the silver shines and the lace edges of the yellowed linens curl with age. Light the tall candles with a trembling hand that we might be seated shoulder to shoulder, hearts overflowing. It's a kind of a potluck, all of us bringing our own recipe. Aunt Dolly brings her plate of fear, which she moistens with her drunken tears and loveless old age. She is the first to arrive. My own dear mother brings her familiar dish, liberally flavored with sacrifice. You know how mothers are. And we, too foolish to object. Our father came dressed to kill in his harshest judgment with enough contempt to share. The others simply sat. They'd seen this play before. It had a bad ending. The food was always good. I can't remember who prepared the restraint. I never liked it anyway. But when offered, did not take it up. Sometimes I do wonder, though, what might have been different had I even tasted a bit from that old cup. So let the candles burn down, put away the stained and scored dishes. Who knows which of us will return to the table next year?
Hello. Hello. I'm Irene. And I've been lucky enough to have some new characters pop into my head due to all these wonderful prompts this winter. So the working title of this little novella that is developing is called The Glorious Grandmothers Support Group of Iceberg, Maine. That is the name. And I'm just going to read a little part of it because so far it's about 20 pages long. The really remarkable thing that happened on night one of the Glorious Grandmothers Support Group was that Karen Corncob allowed her mind to open to the concept that anything is possible.
anything. This was such a revelation to Karen Corncob that the next day she skipped down the village main street, ducked into the dollar store, bought a dozen fake red roses for $12, and that was the prompt, red roses, and fashioned a gorgeous flower necklace with them. Later, as she walked home, she quickly placed them around the neck of the Virgin Mary, who stood stone cold in front of the tiny Catholic church, through wind and rain and hail and snow, smiling her friendly and forgiving smile at all who altered their paths during their busy day, so as to be blessed by her grace. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. You probably want to know what the heck happened to inspire Karen Corncob so. Well, it was several things. It was an accumulation of things. The three octogenarian sisters, Gretchen, Cora Beth, and Rowena, who shared a walker, a hearing aid, and a pair of bifocals amongst themselves in a splendid matter-of-fact spirit of cooperation. The three octos volunteered to teach Marcia Kingsley's nephew to read. Marcia had gone on for a few minutes, 15 in all actually, about the special ed teacher in the grade school and how there failed to be a meeting of the minds between Mr. P and nephew Jan. And so Jan was still not reading at the third grade level. Marcia called Mr. P's teaching methods a few choice words that can be translated to mean the dung of the male of the bovine creature. Rowena, who was wearing the hearing aid, winced and covered her ear during the swearing session, causing Cora Beth to pluck the hearing aid out of Rowena's ear. Then Rowena had to tell Cora Beth what had been said. And then Gretchen held out her hand for the hearing aid, listened to what Rowena had to say, and passed it back to Rowena and said, "So, let's teach the boy how to read." And the hearing aid again traveled to Cora Beth. She nodded in agreement, and it was unanimous. The three elderly sisters were willing to take on Ben Kingsley's cousin's nephew, Jan, and teach him to read if he was willing to learn. Karen Corncob found her voice and asked Cora Beth what method they might employ in teaching young Jan to read, and she received this reply. "First, we will have the youngster over to help us mix up a batch of brownies, and then, while they are baking, we will see to it that he learns to spell and read 10 words, one of the words being brownies." The method explanation stopped here while the hearing aid made the rounds and Rowena and Gretchen caught up, nodding and smiling their agreement, and then Karen heard from Rowena that the week 2 curriculum would include gingerbread and week 3, rice pudding. "Marvelous, marvelous," Marcia Kingsley breathlessly responded, "and little Jan could gain some weight. He's far too thin. Here is where Marcia shared she would be happy to contribute funds to the baking projects, very happy to. She was making out like a bandit on the dollar store stock. And should the little old ladies actually succeed in teaching Jan to read, she would buy them 2 more hearing aids. It would be well worth it. "Oh, but that would disturb the symbiotic relationship, wouldn't it?" Robin Redbreast asked, and then she roared with laughter at her own remark. Rowena, who heard the remark, shook her head no and said, "No, we'll still have the walker to share and our bifocals." "I don't know how you do it, Rowena," Marcia said. "You have the patience of a saint." "×3, said Robin Redbreast, roaring again. So that's just a little taste.
I'm Mary Lou. I have 3 pieces to read for you, and the first one is called Remember, and the prompt was 2 words, remember and thunder. And the picture, it was a magazine picture of 3 rocks positioned at the top of the mountain, kind of holding each other up. Remember. Remember, shouted the power of thunder. The word rumbled from its throne, hovering over the ocean. It crashed onto the beach. Remember, implored the pervasiveness of thunder. The word rolled up the dunes. It splashed on the pathways. Remember, boomed the echo of thunder. The word reverberated over the land. It caused hearts to stop beating. I remember, I say. a place of serenity and balance, of quiet and grounded spirit, a place where thunder is muted, his words softened, a place marking my saneness, emergence into sound being, a place where one stone, carved from the mountaintop, holds the weight of the world. It does so with ease and power as a stabilizer in existence, my existence. The rolling thunder causes me to remember the Karen of my rebirth. I shall keep my eyes on such a pivotal stone. It never tires or relinquishes its place. The stone injects strength and wisdom into my memory. I will survive like the stone. Oh, I remember, old thunder. I remember indeed. The second one, the prompt was a handful of seeds from a eucalyptus tree, which is the only thing Joan brought back to us from California. Perfect. And this one's called Trouble with Seeds. World in chaos, fending assaults, progeny warring, perpetuating decay. Seeds of discontent grow and harvest. Fruit of loins continue clash, obscured light hidden in valleys. Rights to life forgotten in prayers. Habits of cultures molder and fester. Genesis of love needs regeneration. Origins of brotherhood require redemption. Source of existence awaits the call. Time ticks, attempts to sanction. Seed exists beneath the mountains. Roots secure in fertile ground. Who will till to nurture peace? And this last one is one of my favorites. It was just a little phrase, one of many that was put out that day, and it was called Untie Another String of Laughter. And this is called Lovers. Lovers, old lovers, older lovers. A string of laughter trickles from the bedroom, seeps through the vents, absorbs into the carpet, bounces off framed family. It stops, then percolates, refuses to be subdued, muffled with hands or shushed with fingers. Squeals of uncontrollable delight, washed with leaky tears, roll in waves of giddiness, never taking a breath. Fatigue abets silence, then a gasp of a yawn, then a sigh of the lover. Moments squeeze by in quiet agony. A chirp, a chortle, a twitter, or a titter. Lovers, old lovers, older lovers. Untie another string of laughter.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Jill.
Hi, Jill.
I'm going to do two that are from photo prompts. So Joan sometimes lays out a set of images, and these are two that I picked up and wrote from. In the middle of nowhere. In the middle of nowhere, there's a hole that holds warm, salty water, the runoff from life that surrounds it. Down through the crevices, the water travels, then gathers and waits to warn the next weary traveler. There's a hole in the center, a void I walk around and try to peer into to see where it goes. I tow a pebble, sometimes a rock, and lean in, listening for the landing, but the sound doesn't come. There's a hole in the earth filled with warm, salty water, the runoff from life that surrounds it. I climb in and soak. This is also from a photo. It's called A Clothesline of Things He's Been. The old suits hang in the closet. They no longer fit, like costumes for a role in the school play, the one for which he'd forgotten to learn his lines. The shoe fit, so he wore it, then kicked it off into the closet to join the other cast-aside garments. The tux he wore twice, both times wondering what it was made from, that had every inch of his skin itching and crawling. Perhaps it wasn't the fabric at all, he said now, as he pushed the hangers along the bar and farther to the back. Big black boots, rubber to the knee, protective gear, that didn't. Do not remove this tag. Ties and more ties, ties the tailor told him would take him to the top, to the place where everyone would listen when he talked. Ties that tied too tight till he couldn't talk at all, and always ended in knots. Do not remove this tag. Why isn't that on everything? Why don't we keep tags and tabs on everything? Under penalty of law, do not remove this tag. 1 foot out the door in the shoes he never wore, the high tops he bought online, the one in the photo, with the spinning top, the cat's eye, and the single jack, his namesake toy. He wanted the package, but only the shoes were for sale. And there, laces knotted around the bar they hung, a reminder of what he wasn't sure. Under penalty of law, do not remove this tag. He'd always listened, and now wondered why. Then he didn't, and said goodbye, and snipped the tags, his and others, wherever he found them. Off with the tags! Do not remove this tag under penalty of law. So off the rack and off the rails, he wandered the roads and told some tales, high tops on and head held high, not looking back to ties gone by. This is called Small Regrets. Skinny legs, knobby knees, wispy hair that flies in the breeze. Watching you standing there looking out, not seeming to care, until crack, snap, you bend yourself down and push off the ground and spread your wings and take flight. Oops, I thought you said small egrets. I've never had one of my own. Is it even possible to own one? Ephemeral creatures. Sometimes it seems they were staring us in the face long before we knew they were there. Then something calls our attention to them. And once we see them, it's hard to look away, to stop staring. Small regret standing on the pond, looking out at the world, only in reflection. How large you look in your reflection. Like Atlas with the world on your shoulder. No, like the world on the shoulder of, never mind, those that swim freely by your feet, and those that run through the leaves and up the trees. You stand still, growing your own shadow as the morning fog lifts, and you block the sun with all that you are, elegant and still, until you're not. Awkward, but only until you take flight. The last one was also from a series of prompts that were quotes from other people, and one of them was, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be looked forwards, by Kierkegaard. Driven to understand, I rewrite the journey, always making the right turns, making all roads chosen the right roads, and this moment the destination. But what if I didn't need to understand? Throwing understanding out the window, I'd meander through the roads taken and not, the right turns and the left ones. I'd slip down side streets I never did travel, and ignore the signs, one way, dead end, no U-turn. If I didn't need to understand, if sense didn't matter, would I ride those roads in this season? Watching through the rearview mirror instead of the windshield? Would the road lead back here and the story end the same way if I didn't need to understand? Maybe I'll just roll down the window, crank up the tunes, and go. I'm sure I'll find a story that makes sense later.
Yes, I'm the last one. And you've been a receptive audience. Okay. Wedding day. Sullen resignation folds shadows into deep creases, the countenance of my mother. The grays of morning shawl just shaken to life from the open dowry chest. With butterfly lightness, she slips vibrant silks upon my trembling torso. Her voice flutters the words like a song. a day of great celebration, daughter. Tenderly she holds ancient fabrics to the light, letting them fall to camouflage my lithe form. Soft, wild beauty and gleeful colors flow with sensuality and promise. She cups my face one last time, sighing deeply. Today you become a woman, my sweet. Her eyes, the green of bold tundra, gaze into the quivering emerald of my own. Softly we share the wisdom of women, though I may be only 7 upon this day of marriage. Goodness, my name is Ginny and I'll use the microphone and thank you very much. Stones in Palestine. Jamming my hands in wretched fear, splintered stones kicking up as I ran between the crumbling ruins of our side of an imaginary line where hate gives unfettered access to ancient revenge. Boys my age barely know where this hate began, how it festered into our blood, a rancid bile no longer of human nature. But it pumped my legs into terrorized running, pumped my limbs into a raw beating toward border patrols in frozen silence without a human flinch. Their cold eyes of splintered steel, jagged weapons piercing any hope that may still be crouching in my heart. Around me our brazen boys thrust their fists to the sky, starving fingers wrapped about their stones like a shared message that we are ready to defend the scorching rubble of our village remains, where the smell of warm bread so long ago has been replaced by that of warm blood. My stone, though bathed in sweat, anger, unquenchable thirst and longing, will not be thrown in wild terror. Its rough shape, heart shape, I clutch closely in tenderness, for it had been my mother's, and like her bears a ribbon of white peace about it. Like her, a softened stillness of death, but finally at peace. Indigo. What I mean by the color indigo is a fra angelical angel pausing in reverence before the threshold of a midnight sky, a blue gathered from the Caribbean Sea before plunging to unknown depths among primitive Norsemen of the fjord and Celtic spirits among runes. All blues, indigo, cerulean, cobalt, have descended from the heavens to cradle our passage to earth and remain steadfast in each day's journey. What I mean by compassion is an exquisite consciousness to love with unfettered passion coursing through the veins, wildly careening, singing of courage and vulnerability yet captured in the unflinching gaze and whispered gentleness of touch, a compassion birthed from the heart. What I mean by stone is the potential of transformation. Limestone and granite, sculptured over time by the indigo of raw waves, lashing and the passion of man's inner eye, his flicker of purity and faith, his yearning to shape every footprint with purpose and conviction. Thus each of our lives may be braided by the indigo of love, the compassion of yielding hearts, and the transformation of stones beneath our earthly path. 3 hungers. Hunger of the body, when each vessel and cell is drawn anguish for sustenance, shriveled into the aching of famished. Hunger of the mind, when words are smitten by swords, books denied and schools set aflame, thoughts of freedom pummeled into street stones. Hunger of spirit, when dreams are smattered as easily as blood, hope and compassion are silenced by brutality. Even the fragrance of the earth is abandoned for profit. Now, imagine trying to live each day with all 3 of these hungers, and vow to become the change yourself, beginning with your very next breath. Have you ever weighed feathers? An arc of chocolate brown falling from the magnificent wing of a hawk, an energy still empowered with magnetic force and thrum of the earth. Or perhaps a tiny sliver of iridescence from the breast of a hummingbird, like an eyelash with a solitary tear quivering from the weight of love. How would you measure truth or soul upon the humble wings of a sparrow, surrendering in delight to the thorny fruits of warm raspberry? Gently, I measure them all, cupped by the protective shell of my hand. Not one slides away or lifted by breeze. So now I do know the full weight of God's eternal grace between heaven and earth.
Anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
What's the advantage to meeting weekly with a group? Some people choose it, some people don't. What's your feeling about it?
Well, I have a few feelings about it. One of the things that's really good, whether it's every week, every 2 weeks, every month, is to meet at the same time and writing together as a group. If you come back week after week, even though you may have very different writing styles, the creativity and energy between you all really expands the more you're together. So even though we have new writers coming in all the time and other writers leaving, the energy in that space and time is there. And the more we write together, of course, the more you'll find that somebody will come up with the same word or the same name for somebody, and they'll use a certain phrase that's just not a common phrase, and it happens time and time again, as I'm sure those of you who write know. And so by doing it every week, I think it keeps my brain focused on Friday morning. This is when we're gathering, and this is what we're going to write. And we don't know what we're going to write ahead of time, and I don't know either. I try to keep the prompts fresh for myself also. So it works really well.
It's interesting how you play off each other too. Maybe one poem leading to another poem or another thought about it. So it's very interesting.
It's a lot of fun when that happens.
Right.
Yeah. How is it that you're all women? Is that just
As a matter of fact, once in a while we have men, but it just happened that way, and if you ask my writers, they'll feel sort of pretty protective of that in a lot of ways. It's not to say that when we do have a man come in, it's not a really fun energy, because it does change, it changes the dynamic, but it also infuses it with a different flavor.
Can I say? I just want to say that many of us kind of feel like we are like the girls in the dorm, and they hang out together, and they start getting their periods together. It's kind of like sometimes that's what happens. Things start to synchronize in that way, and it's pretty amazing, impressive.
do you find the group at sort of like a deadline? Oh, but you don't bring back your work, do you? Oh,
Not necessarily.
oh.
You can, but you don't have
Sometimes,
to.
you don't have to.
And sometimes, if someone is working on a longer piece, if they're using it for, if they're using the prompts to work on a chapter or a character, then they'll work week after week on that certain thing and use each prompt each week as it fits into their piece. And so oftentimes we'll get really invested in the characters. Linda right here used to be in our group when she was able to work it out with her schedule and started a novel that we all got really invested in, and it's so hard. She's still writing it, and it's so hard not to be able to hear week to week what the characters are doing. So,
Do you ever not do prompts and just bring in your own ideas and your own, yeah?
no,
So
once in a while somebody will suggest a prompt to use for a following week.
Oh, okay.
And I might use it as is or adapt it a little bit.
Okay.
But we always write to a prompt of some sort.
So you're doing most of your writing as a group?
We usually, we break it up into 2 sessions. Usually we write for half an hour the first session. We come back together, we read what we've written, we comment on what we like and what stays with us. We break, have a wonderful chocolate something or other usually. And then when we come back for the second prompt, it's a totally different writing session. Some people pick up from the first, but most, it's a new prompt, it's a whole new exercise. Yes?
Interesting.
What?
How do you come up with your prompts?
I come up with them from everywhere. I go to estate sales, I go to book sales, I scour through old items of things. They come from everywhere. So sometimes it's acorns from my backyard. Sometimes it's smells that are in little jars that nobody knows what the smells are except me. So, just whatever. Photos, you see the board over there has a few of the different prompts that I've used, so anything is fair game.
One time, Joan had a container, and it had 12, 15, 20 little drawers, and in each drawer was something, and you had to open a couple drawers. The prompts are really creative and provocative and hard.
Sometimes we don't like them and we want more, and she says no.
What about this Amherst, is that, this Amherst, what is that?
The woman who started, Pat Schneider, lived in Amherst, and she grew up not being told that she was not a writer. So when she indeed got old enough to realize that yes, she was a writer, she wanted to give everybody this experience to know that if you write, you are a writer. And so I lived in Western Mass for 25 years and got into, luckily, one of the workshops that one of the people she had trained ran. And that's what made me become somebody who felt like I was a writer. And I wanted so much to have the same experience so I could keep on writing once I moved to the Cape in the same kind of venue. So,
And Joan, you're the only one that brings the prompts?
yes. Although I've had, once in a while, somebody, I think Margaret, or Ginia, one of you brought some wonderful boots one time that we wrote about. Must have been Ginia. So, but most of the time, yeah.
How long has this been going on?
2009.
Oh.
A long time.
Nice.
6 years.
So,
I just want to publicly say that I think Joan just does an amazing job of creating and then holding the space, and having sampled a few other writing groups. I mean, I feel so incredibly grateful that I stumbled upon Dune Hollow, because what's provided is just, rich beyond what I had imagined.
Second that.
And I think that's really special, and I think it's very different to have a truly facilitated writing group as opposed to a group who comes together and writes together. I think there's a real difference.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to find someone, if you're interested in doing it, where the click is just really good, because when it's good, it's just great.
and I just want to say, one of the founding principles is that this is a safe space. Everything that's written is treated as fiction, so you can write about the most sensitive topic to you, and nobody knows whether part of it's true, all of it's true, or none of it's true. And when we discuss what we've written, we talk about the narrator and the character. We don't talk, if somebody writes in the first person, we don't say, oh, you did this and you did that, because you don't know.
We do, but Joan stops.
She corrects me. We get it wrong sometimes.
It's important. It's important to keep it being a safe space.
Very good.
Yeah. And also, apropos of that, I don't know how many people here, but very often people who want to touch their own artist, there's a lot of meanness sometimes. You're in a group and somebody thinks that they can tell you things that hurt, and I had that experience before I came here, and I think you did too, John.
Oh, yeah.
And I bet a lot of you have. And you know, in one situation, I thought, oh, I'm never going to write again. And I thought, how could somebody take that away from me? And really, this model gives it back to you. Gives back your.
But the other side of that is that it's not a critique group. So if you want the experience of having something that you've written and you feel is polished and ready or needs work, then this is not the kind of group you want to be in.
How did you find the name? Dune Hollow, right?
Because I'm in the center of town, I wanted to be as close to the ocean as possible.
Your streets.
Well, you're on Cape Cod, right?
Anything is pretty close to a dune.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Wow. I,
Thank you, you're a great audience.
yes. Wow. Inspired, I got some ideas. I'm working on a poem, so I got some ideas.
I mean, we always inspire each other. That's what's so wonderful about, I don't know, reading in your group. I'm in a memoir group and a playwrights group. And we don't have prompts, but we do, you know, I get inspiration from other people's writing. So I was inspired by all of you, so I thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Wow. Okay. So we're going to wrap up. So we're going to be here on Wednesday, April 8th. It's always the second Wednesday. And our next Writers' Voice Cafe will have playwright Bregan Thomas. And he's going to come and do some... Bregan Thomas, yes. He's going to come and do some... He's always exciting and fun and wild and wonderful. And he works closely with the Provincetown Theater Playwrights Lab, and the Provincetown Theater. For those of you, please like us on Facebook, Writers' Voice Cafe, and we'll see you we'll see you in April. But thank you very much for being with us. Alrighty. Oh. Okay, you can shut